Welcome to Reddit Blue Pill, Red Pill, where we go over Reddit stories and predict the outcome of the stories. Please listen and play along by typing in your choices into the comments. There are 5 seconds to answer, or you can pause the video. Today we have a story about a man who found out a dark secret about his wife. All right, let's get on to the story.
So 2 weeks ago, I found out that my 5-year-old isn't biologically mine. I felt so hurt and betrayed that my wife of 6 years, relationship for 9, cheated on me and even got pregnant by another man. I took a paternity test without telling my wife.
Wow, we are starting off the story at full speed. The OP had a secret paternity test done on his 5-year-old child that he has with his wife, and the results came back negative. The OP doesn't write why he felt his child wasn't his and why he decided to do a DNA test behind his wife's back instead of confronting her with his doubts. Maybe the OP thought his wife would gaslight him and make him out to be crazy for even suggesting that he was not the biological father of their child. Maybe he could have had suspicions, but he did not want to say anything to her in case he was wrong and make the situation worse. But would just confronting his wife have been the better alternative? What do you think? If you had suspicions about the paternity of your child, would you get a DNA test in secret? If so, type Q1 blue in the comments. If you would first speak with your spouse and not get a DNA test in secret, type Q1 red.
So I immediately confronted my wife and called her a whore in my anger and many other names. She started crying and explained that she hid it because she didn't want to break our happy family of 3. I asked her, "Why did you cheat on me?" She explained we had a very nasty argument back in the day, so she hooked up with someone, and it was just a one-time fling and has been loyal to me. She said she had doubts that I wouldn't be the father, but she never took a paternity test. She said she was happy seeing me happy and didn't go with abortion for peace of our family and didn't tell me the truth.
So the wife is gaslighting the OP. Maybe that's why the OP had the DNA test done in secret, since he suspected he wasn't going to get the truth out of his wife anyway. Or is there any truth to what his wife is saying? Was the argument they had nasty enough that she thought they may have been broken up and thus it doesn't count as cheating? Even if you give her that, it doesn't excuse why she hid the pregnancy or why she lied that the child was the OP's. It seems all the problems stemmed from his wife not telling the OP she slept with someone else during their breakup, assuming there was one. Since she never told the OP about that, then she also couldn't tell him she was pregnant by potentially someone else's baby. Of course, this is an extreme example, and I wonder if she never got pregnant, would she have continued not coming forward with the fact she slept with someone else? What do you think? If you break up temporarily with your partner, hook up with someone else, and then get back with them, do you owe it to them to admit you slept with someone during the break? If so, type Q2 blue in the comments. If you feel you don't owe any explanation since you were not a couple at the time, type Q2 red.
I told her I am divorcing and I don't want to be in our son's life. She started crying and begging me to not break the family, and I am still his father, and I have been a wonderful father and a husband. I should forgive her and don't let DNA destroy our lives, and started begging me. I immediately left, and she was blowing up my phone. I decided at first not to tell anyone else, but in the end, I got very angry and decided to tell everyone. Everyone is pissed at my wife.
I think the OP is justified to seek a divorce after finding all this out about his wife. The tricky issue is regarding his son. The OP wants to remove himself from his son's life as well. His wife is understandably begging the OP not to leave her and their child, and that the OP has been a great father to their son and to not take her mistake out on their child. Depending on the laws in their state, the OP may be able to legally release all rights to the child, but I am more interested in what is the best moral decision to take. Remember that the OP has been taking care of that child for 5 years and only knows him as his father. The OP would indeed be punishing the child for his mother's mistake if he were to stop being his father. While that is harsh and it is not fair to the child, in the end it also wasn't fair to the OP to be put in this position unknowingly. Had he known that he may not be the child's father and still decided to stick around, that is a big difference to what actually transpired. What do you think? If you think the OP is justified to stop being the father to the child, type Q3 blue in the comments. If you think the OP should still be a father to the child regardless of paternity, type Q3 red.
Her parents said they want nothing to do with their daughter and cut contact. My sister furiously called my soon-to-be ex and cursed her out. Her brother and sister, on the other hand, said I have humiliated my soon-to-be ex and shouldn't have told everyone and should have kept it between us. Yesterday, her sister called me and said I need to take her back and come back for my son. I said I don't have a son. She got angry and started cursing me and said I am a weak, pathetic man. No wonder my wife cheated on me, and I am so pathetic I had to go behind my wife's back to take paternity because I am insecure and weak, that I am giving up on my son just because we don't share blood, and I am the reason my wife is alone and depressed.
The parents of his soon-to-be ex-wife have excommunicated her, while her siblings not only support her, but actually take her side on the situation. This may be a generational divide in terms of acceptable behavior. The older generations see what the wife did as something unforgivable, and even go to the lengths of cutting all contact with their daughter. But the siblings are sticking up for their sister and are trying to guilt-trip the OP to take them back and that he is weak and deserved to be cheated on. I don't know about you, but I would be even more motivated to get a divorce if I had my ex's family members treating me like that. But maybe the siblings do honestly believe that what their sister did was something that can still be worked on, and that a bigger mistake would be to break up the family over this issue. How far would you stick up for family no matter what they had done? What do you think? Would you cut off contact with a sibling who hid the paternity of their child to their spouse? If so, type Q4 blue in the comments. If you would support your sibling no matter what, type Q4 red.
I cut her call, and instead I called her husband and told him everything. I said that family is full of nut jobs. Maybe it runs in their blood, and you should take a paternity as well, and don't trust those bitches. He said he's sorry on his wife's behalf, and we ended the call. Now I am ignoring all my wife's and that bitch's calls.
The OP is getting back on his ex's sister by calling her husband and telling him to make his wife stop harassing him. He also warned him to get a paternity test done on their own kids. Ouch. But considering how much the sister is defending the OP's ex, as if what she did wasn't such a big deal, then I don't fault the OP for asking the sister's husband to look out for himself and get his kids tested. The OP is currently ignoring all calls as the divorce process continues. We have come to the conclusion of the story and have to decide who is the a-hole. If you think the OP is the a-hole for abandoning his wife and child, type Q5 blue in the comments. If you think the wife is the a-hole for creating all this drama, type Q5 red. Now let's listen to a few comments.
Damn crazy how DNAs just go around ruining marriages and destroying lives like that. Not the a-hole.
Sister called OP a weak, pathetic man, and yet her sister cheated because they had an argument. She's just mad that she has to be the support system for a cheater. I am also pretty sure the sister knew or suspected that the child was not OP's. You will never know if it was really just a one-time fling or she stepped out of your relationship every time you had a fight.
Not the a-hole. Your wife had over 2,105 days to tell you the truth and chose to lie to you for more than 2,105 days. I was a child who was raised by a man who questioned my paternity, and it was hell on earth. He always treated my sister, who was born within the marriage, so differently than me. When I found out the truth as an adult, all the neglect and abuse I went through finally made sense. I was not his child, and he knew it the whole time. I am not telling you what to do, but I hope you will consider a few therapy sessions with the child to help ease the transition once you have calmed down. You have every right to be upset, angry, and betrayed, and do not let others guilt you into something you are not emotionally able to do until you come to terms with what your wife did to you. This is why I advocate for mandatory DNA testing at birth to determine who the birth father is before signing the birth certificate. That way, both parties know from the beginning there will be DNA tests and the truth will come out. It would cut down on paternity fraud, ease the father's mind as to the child's paternity, and expedite child support cases because the courts will have proof at the first court date.
I don't believe it was a one-night stand. It was probably an affair. Anyway, you're right not to stay with a cheater. What made you suspicious and take a paternity test? Not the a-hole.
So you raised this baby from birth? Man, I get you're angry with her, but it's not the child's fault his mother is a liar, coward, and a cheat. What led you to take test for paternity? How did you come to decide it was something to do?
That's what I'm thinking too. I get it that she cheated and she deserves to be exposed, but he's going above and beyond. If the story is real, which I doubt, he's the only father the kid has ever known, and it's not the child's fault that mom cheated. I get it that he's angry, and that's justified, but he at least needs to be more rational about it and listen to reason. The fact that he's just sending his flying monkeys to triangulate and degrade her more on top of his behavior tells me that we aren't getting the whole story. Granted, I don't think cheating was appropriate at all on her part, but it might have seemed like a fitting decision to her at the time, depending on the circumstances and her mindset. Psychological abuse conditioning can cause a lot of flaws in thinking and judgment, and just the verbiage of this reveals much about his character if one knows what they're analyzing. Though I do suspect that the whole thing is just misogynistic rage bait, to be honest.
Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for watching all the way to the end and participating. Please consider liking and subscribing to watch future videos. Goodbye.